Welcome everyone to another episode of the FireStorm Podcast. I am Gus, as always joined on the Discord call by Trent. I can't speak. Trent, say hi.
Hi, welcome to the No English Club. We can't English
We don't know how to speak.
No,
hi.
we don't. Welcome. And yes, it's a pleasure to be back here on this glorious weekly podcast. We are recording this
both
one.
a part of, yeah.
Yeah, obviously. It's just like, wait, was it this again?
It's a pleasure to be back on my own podcast.
What the fuck's your name again? I forgot. But,
fuck.
No, anyway, we're bringing you another episode of this podcast because we love talking.
We decided to record this about 5 minutes ago.
Yeah,
so,
basically, reasons for it will be explained later. You'll know why. You'll
figure it out.
But this was yet another topic on our list of conversation pieces for podcast episodes. Today we are going to be talking about anime.
And we're still kind of in introductory territory, right? Like, you know, in the future we'll be talking about, like, oh, here's a certain topic, let's talk about it. But it's still the first few episodes, which means we're going to talk about more, like, a little bit more about ourselves and our experiences as opposed to, like, this other outside thing. So in this episode, we're going to be talking about how we got into anime and then our favorites and stuff like that. So
kind of simple stuff, just getting to know us, getting to know what we're about.
Yeah, like I mentioned, we're still in that introductory territory. You know, those first 10 episodes are going to be all like, here's some stuff we like, here's why we like them, here's our stories, how we got into them. You know, that's pretty much how it is. So you guys can kind of get to know us a little bit better.
Yes, but we have many episodes written down that are less learning about us, more us doing dumb shit and being hopefully entertaining. But we've got many ideas on this little Google Doc thing here, and we hope this will bring... This is going to be a very interesting future for the FireStorm Podcast. I can tell 2020 is just going to kick off with fucking bizarre stuff. Big for now, we're still in the introductory phase. So welcome to the episode about anime.
Yep.
So,
I'll go ahead and start if you don't mind.
Sure, because I still got to recollect of when I actually got into it. So
yeah,
you're more than welcome to begin.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and start with kind of how I got into anime, and then I'll kind of go up to the present and my stories, and like just kind of mention a few of my favorites before we talk about that in more detail later on.
Can I make a wild stab in the dark and say the Pokemon anime?
What makes you say that?
No!
Why would you ever guess that? No,
I don't know.
No,
it's
not like, I don't know. It's not like you've been following me on Twitter for a year.
It's not like our recent conversations have been nothing but Pokemon anime.
It's not like we made an hour-long video plus another 4-hour-long video about exactly that.
Yeah, exactly. So, well,
yeah. So that's where my anime journey begins. You know, go back. Oh God, my first anime. I guess you can call it an anime. It's kind of an anime, but you know, it was one of the few English dubs that was out when I was young. It was Pokemon, obviously, and I got into it. I didn't get properly, like, full into it until Diamond and Pearl, but I would catch... I'd catch episodes of Battle Frontier on every so often, and that was probably... Oh, man, when were those coming out? Like, 2005?
Jesus,
so I was
you're
probably,
asking
like...
the wrong person.
Yeah, I can't... Yeah, I think it's 2005 is probably about when those were coming out, maybe 2006. So, I was probably about anywhere from 5 to 7 years old. And I was watching those, and I was just kind of like, that was the time when the Saturday morning cartoon stuff was still a thing. So, you know, Pokemon came on every Saturday morning at like 8:30 or something. And, you know, being that young of a kid, you know, kindergarten, first grade, I was eager to get up at 8:30 on a weekend to watch Pokemon, you know?
Jesus.
Can't say the same about 20-year-old me, but,
those were the days.
Yeah, right. Can't say the same about 20-year-old me, but yeah. So that I would eventually, like, every so often catch an episode of Battle Frontier, and again, I was really young, so I never identified Pokemon as like, oh yeah, it's an anime. But eventually, you know, you kind of start to distinguish the art style of Pokemon from pretty much every single other like American-made cartoon. There's something like there's a huge difference, and there's a lot of American cartoons where the art style is purposefully shitty or whatever, or like overly cartoonish, but like there's an obvious contrast between the art style of Pokemon versus the art style of pretty much your general American-made cartoon, minus like Teen Titans and The Last Airbender, which were both kind of similar to anime. Yeah, I mean, they kind of reminded me, like, the art style was like anime for those two shows. But, yeah, eventually, I would catch Pokemon every so often as a kid. After Black and White, and I mentioned this in the first episode, but after Black and White happened and Ash lost to Trip in episode 1, I was like, fuck this. So, fucking got out of it for a little while, and got back into it with X and Y, which I also mentioned. And eventually, this is kind of a repeat of what I mentioned in the first episode, but I was like, I went out of my way to watch the Japanese version because the episodes were coming out sooner. You had episodes of Pokemon X and Y coming out like 2 or 3 months before they would come out in English, in the English dub. And so I went out of my way to watch those, and it took me a little while to get used to the subtitles, not having any clue what they were actually saying with, only having the subtitles to guide me. But eventually I got used to it, and now I'm pretty much, for the most part, I only watch anime with subtitles, because I find that the Japanese voice casts are often infinitely better than the English dub. So, and that's not always true. Sometimes the English dub is pretty solid. Like, there are a few anime that I still watch now that I watch in English dub just because, it's a little bit more convenient. But, yeah, for the most part, I find I enjoy the subs more. So, once I got into that, and I started, like, accepting that, like, oh, I'm watching this in Japanese, and that's fine. The next, like, pretty much any anime fan my age, the next thing I got into was Sword Art Online, and I thought it was the coolest thing ever. Woo! Yep. I thought it was the coolest thing ever, because it was, like, the first anime other than Pokemon I'd watched. And, back in the day, I'd watched, like, Beyblade and stuff like that, but I never really got fully into it. I think Metal Fusion was the part of Beyblade I watched, like, the guy with the really spiky hair, Jingo, whatever the fuck. Everyone has spiky hair in 2000s anime, but, you get the idea. Yeah. Jinga, I think, was the main character's name, that blue dude. And, but yeah, I got into Sword Art Online, and I thought it was, like, the fucking coolest thing ever. This was probably around when I was probably about 15 when this happened. And this, at this point, we were probably about a year into the X and Y anime. So I was like, I started watching Sword Art Online, and by this point, I think the entirety of Season 1 had come out. So I went all the way through Season 1 and just loved it. And, there are very obvious flaws with Sword Art Online from an objective standpoint, but at the time, right, I thought it was the coolest fucking shit ever. And
no, when a few years ago, I would have agreed with you, but then, yeah, as I became more adjusted to anime, I realized, oh, this isn't that great.
Yeah. And I still enjoy Sword Art Online because I think it is an enjoyable show, but there are very obvious flaws with it. And the reason I enjoy it is it's not really all that nostalgic to me, to be perfectly honest. It's just that, like, I sometimes just like to sit down and enjoy things and not really think about it, because once you start thinking about it, it's like, wow, this show is kind of crap. But, like, there are some really glaring flaws with it. But yeah, that was big. That was pretty much my gateway into getting into the whole world of anime, was Sword Art Online. So, because that kind of introduced me to, like, a bunch of, like, kind of these, like, the idea of, like, an isekai. I guess, is Sword Art Online isekai? I guess you can call it that. But,
yeah, technically, because
yeah, it kind of is. Yeah.
It's like you're transferring to another world, but you actually get the chance to go back.
Yeah, wow.
What the fuck?
What the fuck?
After Season 1, at least. After Season 1.
Yeah. So, I'm actually, to be fair, though, I'm actually proper enjoying Alicization, whatever it is, the third season.
Alicization, I don't know.
Something. I proper enjoyed that one because it's a lot different from the previous two seasons. And while I think the end of season 2, Mother's Rosario with like the dead chick or whatever, that was the first that was the first time an anime ever made me cry. But again, I was like 16 at the time.
I took that. Sorry, I laughed at that. I didn't realize you were gonna.
No, I was. Yeah, no, like because looking back on it, like it is definitely sad, but I just kind of think like that it made me cry. I just kind of, I look back on it like not wholly seriously. It was definitely deep and meaningful, but it, like looking back on it, I just kind of think it's funny. Like what a little bitch, what a little bitch I was. So, but yeah, that was, Mother's Rosario, that shit was sad when I was like 16. So, but yeah, season 3 is way different from the previous two, and I actually did proper enjoy it. Like, Sword Art Online has a problem with, coming up with all these like random ideas and then like explaining them all in like one big stretch of dialogue. And you just kind of zone out. You just kind of zone out whenever it does that. You don't fully pay attention. Cafe. Yeah, you don't fully pay attention, and it's like, and then by the time, and then 3 episodes down the line, they're using all these vocabulary that you're just like, what the fuck does that mean? And like in season 3, that was like flux light or whatever the fuck, like all these words that I should have been paying attention to, but I just can't because I just like whenever they do that long 10-minute stretch of dialogue where they just explain everything at once, I'm like, so, what? And I like wake up like 10 minutes later, like, oh, I guess I missed it. Too bad.
God, something happened. I don't know what happened.
Too bad. But yeah, it's starting to get interesting. We're at the point, I think, War of Underworld, I think episode 3 came out last week, so episode 4 is coming out this weekend. But yeah, I'm really enjoying season 3. I think it's a lot better than season 1, and definitely better than season 2. So just because it's a lot different, right? Like, but I really enjoy that one. Season 1, I just kind of think is hilarious. I just like to look back on it and just like, wow, this is something that I like. I don't necessarily think it's like horrible, right? People will shit on Sword Art Online for days. I don't think it's that bad. There are very obvious flaws with it, like we mentioned a bunch of times, but I don't like, I can find it. If I allow it, I can definitely find enjoyment out of this show. But from there, some of the other. Fuck you.
Just yeet a watch across the room or something.
I
what
did.
Happened there?
I did.
Oh, Jesus.
And so from there, some of the other early anime I watched that had a big impact on me, just because they kind of introduced me to the whole wider world of anime. The first one is Nisekoi, which got me into the slice of life harem anime. And I don't know whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, because that's a very... Well, the genre as a whole is like very much frustrating for, especially someone older, when you're just like, all these chicks have a crush on this dude and they're like either too shy and they constantly get into these supposedly embarrassing situations, which really most of the time aren't that embarrassing. You're like, oh no, we touched hands, the world's gonna end. And like, it's just frustrating. And that Nisekoi is like one that I can point to immediately where I'm like, why the fuck is this even a show? Like, the only reason people like it, like the entire point,
degenerates love it.
The entire point of this show is just giving us these like embarrassing moments. Like literally the entire meat of this show is just these chicks blushing. And I'm like, this is not interesting. I just like, so that was, yeah, that's
the meat of the show is chicks blushing.
And
that's
so
fantastic.
that show really frustrates me, because I'm like, you have your tsundere and shitoge, you have your overly shy girl and onodera, and you're like, just fucking, like, these two chicks have a crush on the guy, And not only is the guy oblivious beyond reason, but he's also just like, he gets embarrassed for the dumbest shit. Like,
that's the problem. They're all blunt as fuck, but also OP as fuck. That's the one thing about these anime characters is ridiculous.
So anyway, Nisekoi frustrates me, and there's not even any action to go along with it. Like, you know, when you have your Sword Art Online or whatever, you have with a bunch of chicks that all have a crush on one dude, you at least have some like decent action or plot to go with it. When you're looking at Nisekoi, which is slice of life, it's like there's nothing happening except we're like, you know, seeing these chicks kind of come to accept their feelings, and what do I care? Like, like, all you've done is, up until this point, is, like, blush whenever you, like, for no good reason. You know, he's like, the guy is like, I trust you, or, like, I think you're pretty, and you just, like, start freaking out like the world's gonna end. Just get over yourself.
Just
anyway.
Take the compliment, you dumb motherfucker.
Like, anyway, yeah, that show frustrates me. I don't think it's bad. Like, there's some good, like, overall, it's a good show, but, like, when you're watching it, you're like, oh my fucking god, just literally do anything, and nothing ever happens. And that another one that I watched recently that's very much like that is, a show that everyone kind of, like, raved about. It was called Quintessential Quintuplets. That was another slice of life that frustrated me.
That one's on my list, actually.
Yeah, it's again, overall, it's a decent show, but, like, when you're watching it, you're like, you have all these chicks who are just being stubborn or whatever, like, I'll never accept you as my tutor. Just shut the fuck up. You are failing tests. You are absolutely miserable. Just literally cooperate in any way and stop being a stubborn piece of shit, and, like, maybe I'll like you. And I get, like, the point is that, like, they're being stubborn, like, that's part of, like, their character by design, but it's like, it's just, I find myself frustrated with that, and I'm like, I don't know, it's annoying. But, so that's the kind of thing, but, again, like, Nisekoi, it left an impact, because half of, well, for one, the waifu wars from that show rage on to this day, which, even if that wasn't intentional, that they've certainly done something right. So, for that to still be so, like, vehemently argued on the internet, so by degenerates, obviously, but you know, so yeah, and you know, some of the stuff that is considered cliche nowadays is pretty much only considered cliche because of Nisekoi. Like, they kind of did a bunch of this stuff that kind of eventually became cliches after only a few years. So there was that, and then I'm trying to think. The other early anime that I really liked was the Asterisk War, and that eventually got a season 2, which I was really happy about. And,
when did it get season 2? Wasn't that recent?
The Asterisk War?
Yeah, well, didn't it get a season 2 recently?
It got a season 2 a couple years ago. I think it was 2017.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, but I'm actually reading the books now. They obviously, the Asterisk War is a light novel, and it's pretty much the only like series of light novels that I found that have English translations, like official English translations. So they have, and actually the Asterisk War light novels are still being released in Japan. Like, there's one set for release. Actually, I think one just came out like a couple weeks ago. So in Japan, and then they're still releasing English translations. Obviously, they're a little bit behind. But it goes way past what's covered in the anime, so that's why I started reading the books, because season 2 kind of left off on a cliffhanger. So I'm reading from the beginning, though, and it's really interesting because, like, you have a bunch of details in the book that couldn't have been squeezed into the show. So it's cool to read. It's cool to read that. But anyway, yeah, that was one of the, like, everyone kind of shat on the Asterisk War because it was like your very typical tournament anime. But for me, it was the first tournament anime I ever watched. So I was like, whoa!
Tournament arcs are life.
I was like, whoa, this is cool! You know, 15-year-old me was like, or 16-year-old me was like super pumped. I was like, oh, this is dope.
To quote Gigok, tournament arcs.
Tournament arcs.
That's all you need. Tournament arcs.
That's all you need.
They make the world go round. God damn.
And there are some very, like, you know, you have your pretty much your stereotypical, you know, you have it's a harem, so you have all the girls from like each category and stuff. You have your tsundere, you have your kudere, you have the whatever else they're called. I don't know all the names, but I really enjoyed that. And you know, they were more, all those characters were more than just like a stereotype. Like they had actual backstories. Especially the main girl, Euless. I found her backstory to be really compelling. So I really like the Asterisk War because it's not just like, because you know, a lot of anime are just like they give you these characters and they don't really give you a reason to care about the characters other than like maybe they're cute or something. But the Asterisk War gives proper backstory to pretty much all the characters, like, you know, having family issues, or in Yuli's case, having like a best friend who was experimented on. Spoilers, sorry. And yeah,
we should put a spoiler warning at the start of these episodes.
Spoiler warning.
God damn it.
Yeah. So anyway, I found the Asterisk War, like, if you actually pay attention and kind of get yourself invested into the world and the goings on and the history behind it, I actually find it to be pretty interesting. So yeah, that was one of the early ones that had an effect on me. And then now I'm kind of Trent and I mentioned this just before we started this, but actually, I can't even remember. It could have just been on the fucking podcast and I just forgot. But
who knows?
Who knows? But I've kind of transitioned away from watching a lot of YouTube videos in my free time. I've now, this is very recently, like within the past couple weeks, and I've now been moving into watching anime whenever I'm bored. So usually I would just kind of throw on a YouTube video whenever I got bored, but now I've moved to doing that with anime, because there are a lot of anime that I wanted to watch but just like haven't, just been like sitting on my queue list for goddamn ages. And so recently I watched, what's it called? Don't fucking tell me. My Teen Romantic Comedy, which is the one with that one dude with the dead eyes. He was frustrating at first, but I kind of started to get into it. I'm only through season 1. It's supposed to be getting a season 3 starting next year sometime. I'm not sure when. So I'm gonna watch season 2 at some point. But yeah, that was pretty decent. It's definitely a very different anime, which is why a lot of people like it. It like takes a different approach because the character is not like very stereotypical. He's like actively wants to be alone. He's not interested in like a relationship or even friends at all. So and the show kind of presents it like so that he has to be friends or whatever. It's interesting, regardless.
I think I've heard of that one actually. That plot sounds very familiar. I might have actually heard of that one. It's pretty. Isn't it like mainly comedy focused?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, then I think I know what you're talking about. That does look good.
Yeah, so I've only watched through season 1, but I think season 2 is supposed to be better. So we'll see. Another one I got into recently was Food Wars. Food Wars is very much a because I've seen some people who just don't like Food Wars, which I'm not sure I understand, because I think the comedy in that show is absolutely spot on.
You ever just eat a delectable like ramen bowl and then all your clothes just rip off? Yeah. Fucking rage. I mean,
dude,
come on,
me too.
That
honestly
hasn't happened to you, Jesus.
Yeah. Food Wars, if it's not the most relatable show, then it definitely is one of the funniest shows I've seen in a very long time. Just like, it's absolutely ridiculous. Like, you can tell every single person who was a part of this, the writers, the animators, had an absolute ball making this show. And it shows in the final product. So it's just an absolute joy to watch. Like, every single part of it, like, you know, even the characters are well-rounded with proper backstories and all that. I feel myself wanting to root for the good guys and stuff like that. Again, I'm only through season 1. That was one of the ones that I actually watched the English dub on. I actually am a really big fan of the English dub of Food Wars. I think it's really good. So I haven't but I know the Food Wars dub doesn't go through season 3, and season 4 has just started. But I think season 3 is getting a dub at the beginning of next year, so I'll once I get through season 2, I'll watch that. But I really love Food Wars. I think it's really, really funny. So that was another. I'm trying to fucking think. There's got to be another one that I've watched recently.
We can come back to it if you don't.
Yeah, we'll come back. I'll see if I can get a little list together. You can go ahead and start yours.
Well, now I can start my history of anime. Basically, I started off like a lot of Australian television children with turning on the TV every morning at like 7 a.m. or 6:30 or 6 if you wanted to watch gym girls doing Pilates, but half the time you weren't tuning in for that. I would always turn it onto, I think it was Channel 7 or Channel 10, and there was this show called Toasted TV, where they would air basically a few episodes of like cut down anime episodes within like an hour and a half. They would show like 4 episodes. Like it would greatly cut down, but it was like most of the episodes. And I watched it every day, and it had all my favorites. Basically, Pokemon anime, most likely the Diamond and Pearl series. That's all I ever recall on TV. Yu-Gi-Oh anime, it would jump between the original GX and 5Ds wasn't out by then, so it would jump between the original and GX. Then Bakugan, holy shit. Does anyone remember the original Bakugan anime? Jesus Christ. That's some good shit. And somehow, I don't think it was through Toaster TV, but somehow when I was young, I got into Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Oh, nut.
Dope. That was the first anime I ever got on DVD. That shit is... Dude, I got the full
The
series.
Last Airbender has got to be one of the best shows, like, ever. It's so good.
So good. Like, everything about it is phenomenal. Oh my god. They know how to build up plot, characters, an interesting world, and everything, and even comedy. Just everything about The Last Airbender.
It's got to be one of the most, like, well-rounded, brilliant shows I've ever seen. It's just so from good.
America. Holy shit. What the fuck?
We can do something good every so often.
Yeah, you guys can do something good every so often. I believe in you. Yeah, so basically, for the longest time, it was just Toasted TV. Then, when I just stopped paying attention to the morning television cycle, and I was mainly focusing on games. If you've listened, if you listened to episode 2, the video game episode, I talk about like how I cut out of gaming for a while, then I got into Skyrim, and that changed everything for me in 2012. Basically, around that time as well, I wasn't really watching a lot of shows. I wasn't really... Yeah, that was fucking huge. but I wasn't really watching a lot of shows. But then, I started playing Skyrim, and around that time, when I was getting into Skyrim, one of my friends was starting to get heavily into anime. And I was just like, oh yeah, anime, I forgot this exists. And we were going through one of the illegal pirating sites because we
that's how we all start, dude.
I'm gonna get Crunchyroll, don't worry, I'm gonna get Crunchyroll. We were going through one of the illegal sites, and basically he just said, dude, I want you to watch a show. What do you like? And around this time is when the Dawnguard DLC for Skyrim came out, and the Dawnguard DLC is based on like a vampire bloodline of royal vampires. So I was just like, fuck it, bring up something with vampires. And the first anime he ever found, if you know this show, you know how bad it is. He brought up Rosario+Vampire. Have you heard of Rosario+Vampire? Well, let me tell you, my friend.
Oh god.
The manga is better. Basically,
fucking weeb.
dude. No, but puts on his glasses dramatically. No, but dude, we binge watched the entirety of season 1 in that day. And
nice.
At the time, I thought, this is really fucking cool. And also, ooh, yeah, nice butts on those chicks, man. They're
right?
fucking sick. But, because literally, I'm not even kidding.
Jiggle physics.
No. You know how anime, when it's released, like in Japan, they have sometimes they have transition cards to go into TV ads.
Yes.
And then they have transition cards back.
Yes.
Literally, the transition cards for Rosario Vampire was just an upskirt image of a chick's ass. And it was a different chick each episode. It was a different chick each episode. It was degeneracy at its highest form. It wasn't. It didn't go so bad as High School DxD, where it showed your tits. It never went that bad. It was just highly heavy harem stuff. But
yeah,
it was. We thought it was sick when in like 2012 or whatever. It actually came out in 2012, so I think it was like fairly new around that time as well. That's why we watched it. But yeah, it's not even. I can't even rewatch episode 1 now. Like, looking back at it, I can't go back and rewatch it. It's just, and season like you thought season 1 was okay, and then season 2 just like drop kicked it out the window. It ruined the show because season 1 they were actually introducing characters and building up to a bit of a climactic ending. And then season 2, they made like essentially every episode except episode 1, 11, and 12. Basically, all those episodes in between was just like a Friends episode, where it would just be a random comedy bullshit plot for that episode that would never go anywhere, and it would always end up with Mocha taking off her Rosario and kicking some cunt in the balls, and that was about it. It just... Season 2 was absolute trash, but funnily enough, I don't think she'll mind if I say this on a podcast. Tamisha, the one we did the Nate Wants to Battle album discussion with, she loves the anime. She really loves it, and when I first went to her place and saw her DVD collection, I was just like, "Dude, you got Rosario Vampire," and she's just like, "Yeah, I know, it's sick," and I'm like, is it? But okay, I'm not going to question your taste. But yeah, from there, everything kind of kicked off. After that, we tried to get, I was just like, fuck it, I like anime. But we tried to get...
You just got to accept it.
we tried to get one of my best mate into anime, because this wasn't my best mate who showed me, like, who got me into anime through Rosario Vampire. No, we tried to get our other mate, like a third mate, into anime, and we let him choose a show, and he chose High School of the Dead, and that shit is so fucking good, but the creator is dead, so we'll never get a season 2, even though they're promising season 2, so sad tears all around.
Rest in peace.
Rest in peace. So yeah, from there it just kind of evolved. I was heavily into anime.
Also, you didn't see it, but I did the Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Rest in peace.
Oh no, I didn't see it. I'll do it now. I'm doing it now. Rest in peace.
Rest in peace.
Whoever the author of High School of the Dead is, I completely forgot. I'm sorry.
I'm not.
Yeah. So from there it kind of evolved. I watched a few more well-known shows. Like I watched Future Diary, I watched Spice and Wolf, I watched Sword Art Online, of course, Sword Art Online.
Everybody did.
Look, back then I thought, oh, this is pretty good and pretty entertaining, but then it got to the kind of rapey scenes.
Yeah, that was the weird shit. That was the weird shit, dude.
It was the tentacles in season 1, and then
it was the tentacles, the second half of season 1.
Then it was that other creepy guy that had control of Alfheim, just fucking perving on us. And that They're just
Great.
putting me
That's
way
that's
off.
the content I really wanted to see. You know, Asuna
Yes,
was
this-
supposed to be like one of the very first like independent, strong females in anime, and then she just gets raped by tentacles.
Locked in a birdcage.
Cool.
Jesus Christ. See, you were talking about how you zoned out of Sword Art Online during the large exposition parts.
Yeah.
That's the main faults of Sword Art Online is it had massive exposition at places where it wasn't necessary.
Yeah.
And unnecessary drama.
Yes.
Unnecessary
Yes.
drama. You know what though? It did work in season 2. Because season 2, I actually thought, like, at least the Gun Gale Online arc, I really enjoyed because
Yeah, I thought Gun Gale was pretty good.
It actually built up Sinon, and it built up her backstory. It showed her past, and then her really fucking creepy friend that tries to assault her at the very end.
Yeah.
I legitimately wanted to stab him in the gut.
Yeah,
so,
same.
You know, it made me feel the correct emotions. I think it made me feel the emotions it was going for.
Yeah, exactly.
So, you know what, good job there.
That's
but then
good.
I heard
That counts. That means it's pretty good. It did its job.
Then I heard about what I haven't seen Alicization yet, but I heard of what they did, and
What did they do?
yeah,
I've watched it. You can say it. I just don't know what they did.
the two guys that chained up the chicks to the beds and then made the blonde guy watch. I heard about that.
Oh no! I just had war flashbacks. Oh my god,
Vietnam flashback.
dude!
Yeah,
I
heard about
totally
that.
forgot about that. Yeah, that was
I heard
fucked
about that,
up.
and I.
But you know what?
refused
You
to
know
watch
what?
it.
I will say, it actually, dude. It was like the episode that was in it even let off was like, dude, like don't fucking watch this if you're easily like disturbed. Like just don't.
Dude.
It let off with like a text warning with like over a black screen. It's like, oh my god, we're in for some
Warning,
real
you're gonna
shit
see
this
some
time.
shit this episode.
And you know what? It
no.
was like, despite how questionable of a decision that was to make in the first place, it did its job. Because I was like, at the end of that, I wanted to murder those two guys. I was like, just fucking stop. Like it was disturbing,
hearing
right?
that is the main reason I'm legitimately put off of watching it. That is actually, I'm not even kidding. I was going to watch it, and then I heard they put off some fucking some shit.
I don't know if that's. I'm guessing that's part of the light novels, but either way, like
it is. I can confirm because one thing, the same mate who got me into anime, he was heavily into reading manga and light novels, and he actually said that Alicization and War of the Underworld in the light novel form is his favorite. But
I believe that.
yeah, that does occur in there as well.
So yeah, despite like how weird that is, you know, but like it's weird and it's hard to watch, but that's the idea, right? Like I get it. You just have to like, I get why they did it, like because it accomplished its job, like it accomplished what it wanted to do, and because at the end I felt like so sorry for those two chicks, and then I wanted to stab those other two guys, and it even like it led to this big moment that kind of showed you what the hell was actually going on, or it didn't explain shit right off the bat, but like, you know, eventually you were had it figured out. Like you used your power of inference to kind of guess what had happened in that moment. So I already spoiled Asterisk War, but basically, so I guess I can spoil this. Oh well. Well,
I don't
do you want to watch
watching it? So
you don't intend on watching
not
it?
really.
Okay.
Just
It is
go
my
ahead,
it is my favorite of the Sword Art Online series so far. So if you ever do change your mind, I do recommend it. But it's basically what happens is like, I can't remember the exact details, but
dude, I haven't even watched the movie yet. I was planning on doing that as well. Ordinal Scale.
Oh, right, I knew that. Anyway, yeah, I can't remember the exact details, but what happens is the dude, the blonde dude Yujio gets like really pissed or something. He gets, you know, obviously he gets really like pissed off. He gets very like agitated by what's happening in front of him, and he can't do anything about it. So what happens is like one of his eyes explodes, and that's a very weird thing for it to happen without any context. But yeah, that's literally what happens. But yeah. Cool. But yeah, it's explained later on. I don't remember the exact details. Again, this is one of those things that SAO does where it's like really complicated, and unless you know every single part of it, you're not really sure what happened. But and that's kind of where
Is it bad that I've watched a lot of YouTube videos on it, because I watched a lot of breakdowns on it just so I could avoid watching the show itself.
Interesting.
So I think I get what happened. It was something about the program or the laws that was set in that universe, the underworld.
And
because Yu-Gi-Oh!
He like breaks
it,
then his like he has punishment by, or not punishment, but it's like his eye explodes for whatever reason. I'm not sure exactly. You might know better than me because I haven't watched any breakdowns on it.
I think it was because he was forcing himself through the program and his eyes just burst, and because he stabbed the blokes, because it was some sort of twisted rule where basically they could do mostly whatever they wanted, and so they assaulted the chicks.
Right. So he's technically a program that is breaking the laws of the world he's been placed in. So yes. I think, I get it.
Isn't that when Alice comes down and it's just like, yo, I gotta take you guys away?
Yes, I think it is. I want to say yes.
And then they just think, oh, wait a minute, we know you, Alice. What the fuck?
Because Yu-Gi-Oh's kind of in love with her. Oh well, that didn't work out.
Doesn't he get cucked?
No, he doesn't get cucked. He gets like, I think he dies.
He doesn't get cucked, he gets stabbed. Jesus. Yeah. But no, because I think I've seen screenshots of Kirito all blank-eyed and Alice trying to help him.
Right. What happened? They explained this in the last episode, and I just forgot.
I think we should probably move on actually from SAO.
This is a different video. They explained it in the last episode, and I forgot. I think what happened is he got in. I'll just try to explain it real quick. Like at the very end of that first arc. Of Alicization or whatever, he like tries to get in contact with the real world, and like at the moment I can't remember. Anyway, something happened and he got fucked basically.
He fucking died.
Well, I would say he got fucked, but he probably hasn't even fucked Asuna yet. What a little bitch. Anyway. Again, enough Sword Art Online for now. Do you have anything else to add to your story?
No, that's kind of how I got into it. I just started watching the anime then around I'd like to say 2014, 2015. Mm-hmm. That's when I didn't get. I said earlier I got into Rosario+Vampire when it was new. That was bullshit. I didn't start watching it in 2012. No, it was 2014, 2015 when I started getting into anime. Around the time I was heavily into Skyrim, so it was mainly just me playing Skyrim and me watching anime whenever I wanted. Nice. And now that I'm actually in a position where I can actually have money, I'm actually going to pay for Crunchyroll because I can't be bothered going online and downloading every episode and I don't want to watch.
Yeah,
but
I've had Crunchyroll for a while and I think it's really good.
Yeah, nice. I've got a pretty extensive list here of anime that I'd say are some of my favorites, like, because I've watched quite a lot, and a lot of them I've dropped either halfway through the season, or something like that if I didn't enjoy them, or some that I really enjoyed at the time that I look back on now and think, yeah, maybe not. Like, one of them I can definitely say without a doubt was Codebreaker. Codebreaker, that shit... The thing about that anime is that the light novels were going and the manga... I think it was actually... No, it might have just been a manga. I think it was just a manga that was going. They translated 2 episodes into English, but then they cancelled because they weren't doing so hot.
Interesting.
So they cancelled the English dub of the manga. They adapted the anime into one... No, they adapted the manga into 1 season, and... like a few OVAs that remain Japanese. And around this time is when I was showing anime to my other mates and all that I found. And I was trying not to bring up a lot of the harem anime or like anime that I knew. Like, because, for example, I loved Spice and Wolf, but I knew neither of them would give a shit. So I thought Codebreaker. Oh, it's a bit serious. It's a bit edgy. It's like it's like High School of the Dead, but with a bit more magic. And literally, like episode 3, they go into like talk about dead children and stuff. And then even Callum said, like, I just said his name. My best mate said that.
I think it's fine.
I said, whatever. Callum, you know him. You know him. He even said...
Yeah, I know him now.
No. But people who know my channel at least would probably know him. But this is the FireStorm Podcast. You don't know me. Anyway, but...
Shit.
My best... my best mate, essentially, after the episode, he was just like, dude, what the fuck is this show? And I'm like, it's pretty good. It's not all about dead children. Trust me, it's not all about dead kids. I'm honest. But I look back at it now as like one of those shows that's just acts way too serious, and it's got one of those edgy protagonists that I tried to replicate with the Protector.
Hey,
I forgot his name even, but he's just an edgy motherfucker that can control blue fire, and it's just like, dude, this cunt. Because the main
he sucks.
The main chick like literally falls for him for essentially no reason. I don't know why, but she does, and then he just keeps refusing him. And even by the end of the anime, they're not together. He doesn't care.
What an edgy dude! Oh my god,
he doesn't care. But
beautiful.
Yeah. Now. That's basically it, yeah. So now one of my other best mates, the one that got me into anime, he reads light novels and manga, he watches anime whenever he wants. We don't talk a lot that much at the minute. We chat occasionally, sometimes about anime, sometimes about games and stuff. But I've kind of dropped off a little bit with anime, but as you said, of how you are edging away from watching YouTube all the time and watching more anime, I'm looking to do the same just because I'm getting a little bit bored of all my everything I'm subscribed to. A lot of it's just the same.
That's kind of how I was.
Yeah, so I'm going to create content for YouTube, but I'm going to stay clear of watching it. I'm going to watch anime instead. Because also I've joined a D&D group as well, and every member of that are heavily in anime, and they're all recommending me stuff left and right. So I'm fucking gonna watch some. But now let's get into some of our favorite anime that we've watched over the years, and I'll handball it back to you.
Okay, so I've got a little list together. It's pretty small, but this is just some of the stuff that I've watched kind of recently, or am still in the process of watching. There's, I think it's fair to mention, I've already mentioned Pokemon, but the most recent series, Sun and Moon, is probably my favorite series to date. It's probably the most well-rounded series of Pokemon.
I've seen so many things online about how literally everyone hated the animation change, but the story and humor around it is amazing. Yeah.
And so it's definitely the most well-rounded series of Pokemon. Like it's got comedy. The comedy's really spot on. The characters are all really good, even though there's 6 of them, so they sometimes they struggle with getting all of them the proper attention, but given what they had, I think Sun and Moon has done a really great job, and the league might be my favorite league. Like it easily made up for what it was lacking in the normal, when you go through a series of Pokemon, you expect a lot of battles. There weren't too many battles in Sun and Moon, but the league, which just finished up, easily made up for that. It showed the entire league from start to finish, which is, I think it's a first. So definitely my favorite series of Pokemon to date. So I think that's worth mentioning. Then from there, another anime I watched pretty early on that I still love to this day is called Trinity 7.
High five, my boy!
Hey, dude, I love Trinity 7. Shit. It's hilarious.
Definitely phenomenal.
One of the best harem shows, and easily one of the best protagonists in anime. Like that dude Arata, he is a legend.
I've watched it in both English and Japanese, and just Oh, the scene where he's got like one chick laying down next to him to his left, one on the right, and then I can't remember all the names.
Oh, Lilies, come on!
Let's come on! You knew it. That's what I was going for. Lilies, come on!
Lilies, come on!
It's so fucking good.
It's so
good.
The
humor in that is impeccable. That's amazing.
and what I really like is how lighthearted it is. It doesn't take itself too seriously. Even in the final conflict with the evil blonde chick or whatever, quote unquote evil blonde chick. We're not actually sure how evil she is because she's kind of good now. I don't know, but
yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, there was like an OVA kind of recently that was that had her as like a good guy or whatever. I don't know.
There was a movie that the Alchemist or something like that.
I'm not sure.
The Eternal Library and the Alchemist Girl. And then, because I just found it on Wikipedia. And then Trinity Seven Heavens Library and Crimson Lord OVA premiered in March this year. Well, I didn't know about that.
Which one's the one that... Have you seen the one where they, a child comes out of Lilith's book or whatever? Something like that? Like, they had this small girl...
Yeah, that's the Alchemist Girl one. That's the movie that came out in 2017.
I didn't know. I wasn't sure.
I haven't seen it fully. I watched the first 10 minutes of it, then I got occupied with something else, and then I didn't finish it. But it's it's on a hard drive somewhere. I will find it and watch it because yes.
Yeah. Even during the final conflict with that with the blonde chick, he's like, man, she's got some nice tits. It's just it just does not take itself too seriously at all. It's really, really funny. So even though it's supposed to be like this, in a situation like that, you'd expect it to be like this super over serious, edgy dude, but you have this guy, because you have this blonde chick who has massive tits and is pretty much showing them off freely. What guy wouldn't be like, oh wow, those are nice,
the one thing though, it's one of those animes that it starts off with a premise, it starts off with a motivation, and then it seems to drop off and never reference the motivation again, because I've looked up the Wikipedia, literally the motivation was about it was the breakdown phenomenon happening, and Arata's cousin / childhood friend disappearing.
Yeah.
And he has to go find... And he's basically doing all this shit so he can find her. Mm-hmm. But I swear to Buck, his cousin is barely referenced again during the rest of the anime.
Oh, she's she's one of the last villains, I think. I can't remember exactly. I know she comes back later on as a villain.
I thought that was a chick that looked like her.
No, there is a chick that looks like her.
Yes, I need to rewatch the anime because now that there's another OVA, I want to get up to date because I do love this anime. So
it's very good.
I do need to keep up to date.
That's one of the few anime that I would just go back and watch just because it's so goddamn funny. One of the anime I'm interested in now, it's still going on. Season 2 is coming out right now. Probably the only slice of life harem show that I've actually been pretty interested in all the way through. It's called We Never Learn, Bokuben. It's actually, I found myself really enjoying the show all the way through. Which surprised me, just given I found myself frustrated with Nisekoi, and stuff like that. So, but yeah, Bokuben is
ruled by an anime.
Oh yeah, but yeah, I really enjoy We Never Learn. It's got really the dialogue is really, really good. The characters are fairly consistent. The actual goings on are interesting enough that I'm not super bored. The embarrassing situations that the characters get in are unique and still funny. They're handled very well. So I find myself really enjoying that one. That's still going on. Season 2 is the new episode coming out every Saturday. So I'm still really enjoying that one. Another one that I'm enjoying currently is called Cautious Hero, which is it is absolutely redonkulous. It is so funny. It's kind of like, and you know what, I feel like I would mention Konosuba. I think that's fair to get him an honorable mention. I need to rewatch it because I watched it when it first came out. I was probably like 16 or 17, which at that time I wasn't really I hadn't really gained an appreciation for like older, like mature humor. I want to rewatch it because everyone says it's fantastic, and it didn't really stick with me. So I feel like if I watch it again now, I'll appreciate it more. So I want to
I love Konosuba. That is
so I want to rewatch it because I haven't watched it in forever, and I know season 2 came out. And it's still getting a bunch of new stuff. Like, it's generally one of the more popular shows that, like, you know, on Crunchyroll and all that. But yeah, honorable mention there because I want to go back and watch it. I'm sure I'm gonna love it when I rewatch it. But Cautious Hero is one I've been watching. It's not on Crunchyroll, unfortunately, but luckily it's on Hulu, which saved my life. It's so funny. It's basically like it introduces this concept where there's a bunch of goddesses. You know, it's very stereotypical. Like it addresses the stereotypes, though. It's like we have a bunch of goddesses that call upon random people from Earth to save certain fantasy worlds, right? And there's a bunch of different worlds that constantly need to be saved, and a bunch of different goddesses. So this goddess calls upon, is like, you know, at the first episode, for example, to kind of like give you a little context, she says something like, well, as usual, I'm gonna call on a guy from Japan. As usual, I'm gonna call on this guy from Japan. Apparently, this kind of thing happens in books and anime all the time. So when I call a Japanese guy up here, they usually get the gist of it pretty quickly. So that's the kind of thing she says. So it starts out like that, and then she calls on this guy, Seiya, who turns out to be, well, for one, he's fucking ripped, and two, he's obviously, as the title suggests, he's the most overly cautious piece of shit you will ever see, and it leads to some of the funniest things I've ever seen, because it's not like a normal thing where the hero is just like, yeah, let's go battle some monsters. It's like this guy is like, are you sure you're not a zombie? Or like, you know, shit like that. Like in the most recent episode, he pours holy water on little kids, making sure they're not undead. Like, it's fucking hilarious. He like half of the show is like him just like the goddess just being impatient. Like, I just want to have a normal adventure, but he's in his room doing push-ups and shit, training to make sure he's high enough level to take out everything. One of the funniest moments.
Dude, what a Chad.
I know, right? And she kind of falls in love with him, but she, like, anyway, I'll mention this. I'll mention this a bit later, but it's like it's handled in a really funny way. But one of the funniest moments is in, I think, episode 2, where they're off in the fantasy world he's supposed to save, and he's like, and the goddess is like, it's a slime enemy, you've got to take it out. And you know, normally at this point he'd be like level 1, but he's been doing push-ups and shit and gaining magical abilities, so he's like level 15, and he has an ability called Hell's Fire, and like this sword ability that I can't remember the name of, and he's like, I've got to make sure this thing dies. And he uses like Hell's Fire on it like 3 times, causing it like a huge explosion to absolutely just destroy the land. It wipes out all the like the vegetation and all that shit. It's hilarious. Like, he's just like like after the first Hell's Fire is like, the goddess is like, I think you got it. That might have been a little too much. He's like, no, we can't be sure. And he does it again. It's just, and he just repeatedly just does the same shit over and over. And it's just like some of the funniest shit. Anyway, that's still coming out. One thing that kind of stood out to me is the goddess Rista. Her voice actress is incredible. One of the most versatile actresses I've ever heard. I sometimes can't tell that it's the same person talking. Like, she does a bunch of different like voices to go along with faces that she makes in the show. I think that's fair to point out. Like, she's incredible. No. So it's almost worth watching the show just to hear her work alone. Like, that's how good she is.
Voice actors and actresses that can like pull off multiple voices, like impersonating the same character.
Yeah,
that's really talented.
I can't really explain it, but like without you seeing it, like you have to go and watch it to know what I'm talking about. So it's like she kind of falls in love with him, like she thinks he's hot or whatever, and she's like, wait, love between goddesses and humans is forbidden. Oh, and but because he's like cautious, he's like overly edgy and shit, he will never like be in love with her or whatever. But yeah, it is a very good show. So that's still going on. If you have the means, I don't know if I know it's on Hulu with English subs, so if you have that, you can watch it. It's not on Crunchyroll, unfortunately, at least from what I've seen. It could be, and I just searched the wrong thing. But, yeah, I'm not entirely sure.
Possible.
Yeah, and then, for the last thing I want to mention is Fairy Tail. That's an episode, that's an anime that I'm still watching now. It's one of the longest animes out there. It's got, like, I think closing in on 300 episodes or something like that. So that's another one I watch in English dub. I really enjoy Fairy Tail. The only problem is the arcs are very predictable because it's the same structure over and over again. But I really enjoy the dynamic between all the characters, and the dialogue is very well written. And I'm on the fuck me, I can't remember what it's called. Fucking, it's a tournament arc. It's a tournament arc. Whatever it is. The tournament arc.
Yes. Yes.
Got some in my mouth. I got it.
Indeed.
That was disgusting. Anyway, I can't remember what the competition is called, but that's where I am. Like episode 120 or some shit. You have to commit yourself to watching Fairy Tail, but
yeah,
it was something that I'd wanted to do for a while, and then at the start of this year, over winter break, when I just had absolutely nothing to do, because I didn't have my desktop with me. I had basically I left it at home because I didn't want to just bring it back and then have it bring it back to school and set it up again. So I
decided against it. I decided against getting into it purely because my friend got into every single got every single manga. Because I think Fairy Tail just ended the manga just ended.
Yes, it just ended. There's a continuation of it. There's like a sequel, the 100-year quest or something. I don't remember. But there is like a continuation of it.
He got every single one and then sold the whole set.
Really?
He said because he didn't find worth in rereading them. And he poured so much time and money into getting the whole set. And as soon as he finishes it, he sells it, and I'm like, wow.
All right. Fantastic.
I'm discouraged. I'm discouraged from watching it now.
But yeah, I found myself actually really enjoying it, especially at the start. Eventually, like I mentioned, it becomes formulaic. But when I first started out, I found myself really enjoying it because the first few arcs are very different from each other. After that, it starts getting very formulaic, and but now I think it's starting to kind of diverge from that, which is nice. At least for the point I'm at. So that's good at least. Obviously, it'll be like the same general structure. Like, they'll be pushed to their limit, but eventually the power of friendship will prevail. Whatever, who gives a shit? But at least it's a different situation, right? Like, at least it's not like the same shit. Oh no, the world's about to end. Better conjure up the power of friendship and camaraderie to save the day. At least it's like something different from that, and there's it just feels a little bit different this time around, at least in the arc that I'm in. But yeah, I enjoy Fairy Tail. I think the characters are probably its strongest thing it has going for it. They're genuinely, I think they have some of my favorite characters in anime. Natsu is absolutely fucking hilarious. He has these moments where he just says the dumbest shit, and it's got the best comedic timing. It's just so funny. And the dynamic between all the different members of Fairy Tail, it's very, very entertaining. So even when it has like these filler episodes, which are entirely character driven, I find myself entertained by them because the dynamic they have going on is so good. But yeah, that's probably the last thing I want to mention. I'm like I said, I'm probably still only a third of the way through Fairy Tail, and I'm like 120 episodes in. But
yeah, that's some meaty shit, man.
Meaty shit.
There's a lot to Fairy Tail.
Yeah,
and,
it's a commitment, and I was like, because it was something I wanted. Like I said, something that I wanted to do before the start of this year, and then eventually when I was on winter break and just had nothing to do, I was like, fuck it, I'll watch it. And I watched like a whole lot of episodes in like a few weeks, so that was interesting.
All right, just to let you know, because you reminded me of how much I love Trinity 7. Live on the podcast, I've just ordered volume 1 of the manga from Book Depository.
Nice.
So
good stuff.
Yeah.
I remember I remember reading the manga briefly online, actually. I can't remember where I was. I stopped reading it at some point. I don't remember why I stopped reading it, but like I remember really enjoying the manga. So yeah. Just
something else I thought I'd mention before I get into some of my other favorite anime. There was actually one manga/graphic novel that I read in high school before I got into anime. It was called Maximum Ride. There's novel versions. I think there was a TV show that flopped, and there was a graphic novel/manga serialization of it. And I loved the manga version in high school, and I've started ordering the volumes for them as well. I've got a nice little bookshelf full of manga. Nice. But yeah, I want to give the Maximum Ride graphic novel manga a shout out because that shit's cool. But for myself in anime at the minute, probably some of my favorites. One of them is I found. Okay, this is basically what I thought Rosario+Vampire was going to be, but is not. This is just better in every single way. Seraph of the End. A phenomenal manga series. The anime is so good. It's a little bit edgy, but it's got heaps of good comedy to it, because the edgy, super serious guy whose family was killed when he was a kid actually becomes lighthearted as he finds all of his friends, and the vampires are all creepy but yet like compelling, and it's just such a good anime. And I don't think there's enough. There might be enough manga material to do a third season, but I don't know if they're going to. I really hope they do. The anime is phenomenal, and I'm collecting the manga as they release. It is very good. Next after that, another one in the similar vein to Trinity 7. It's not as good, but it's still pretty good. Demon King Diamo.
Interesting.
Demon King Diamo. It's kind of like Trinity 7. Trinity 7 is a lot better in multiple ways, but I thought Demon King Diamo was pretty good as well.
Got it.
No Game, No Life. Phenomenal.
Good shout.
Good shit. The Devil is a Part-Timer. The funniest shit I've seen in a long time.
Nice.
Re:Zero. I really enjoyed Re:Zero.
I want to get into that. That's my next anime endeavor is Re:Zero.
Watch it in Japanese. See, I usually watch these shows. I usually watch these in English. I have to say that off the bat. I didn't mention it before. I usually watch these shows in English, but every so often, if I think the dialogue's cringy, or if it's a new show that has a lot of hype around it, I'll typically watch the Japanese first. And Re:Zero is the first anime in which I prefer the Japanese to the English. And yeah, Japanese of Re:Zero is fantastic. It's really funny because I got into the more mainstream anime a little bit later than everyone else. Because after all those animes, I got into the mainstream stuff of Death Note, Prison School, Konosuba, Is This a Zombie, Erased, and Code Geass. And
gotcha.
Yeah,
I need to watch Code Geass. That's on my list as well.
Do it. Like, Code Geass is probably the most recent anime that I've watched in its entirety, and I've rewatched both seasons 3 times. Because it's all on Netflix. So I was just like, fuck yeah, I'm binging this shit. And it was good. Yeah. So, Code Geass is fantastic. Is This a Zombie? It's hilarious as fuck. I have yet to complete Violet Evergarden, but I love it thus far. Erased. Everyone hates the ending of Erased, but I thought it was okay. Have you seen Erased?
I've not.
Okay, well I won't spoil it for you. I do recommend watching it, but everyone hates the ending. But I think the ending was fine. But what else? A Jin Demi-Human, also on Netflix, pretty good because it's. And Ruby is also one of my favorites, but Ruby and A Jin Demi-Human are both the 3D animated stuff, but both are incredibly good, and Ruby's still continuing despite the original created Monty dying, and the new people kind of took the direction of Ruby, and they changed the direction of Ruby. They kind of, like, because it used to be known, like, the first 3 seasons was mainly known for its epic fight choreography. And then when the creator died, and like the people that took over kind of changed the direction to be more focused on the plot and less on the fighting. And the fight quality just went heaps down in volumes 4 and 5. But then volume 6 was really good, and volume 7's about to come out like in a few days, probably by the time this episode's out. Volume 7 will have started premiering, so definitely I'm looking forward to that. But yeah, those are basically all my favorites. I did enjoy One Punch Man. I haven't seen season 2.
I've yet to watch One Punch Man.
Season 1's very funny, very good.
Nice.
Vampire. Okay, this is another one of the early ones that I watched and kind of look back and cringe at. Is Vampire Night. I don't know how I feel about that. And High School DxD.
Ooh.
Wow. Have you seen that one at least?
I've seen like very brief. Like I think I've seen episode 1.
Dude. Oh, I love High School DxD, man. I like. Oh, if my family hear this and search it up, they're going to be ashamed in me. But you know what? I don't care. High School DxD is phenomenal. It is the funniest shit with the biggest tits. So, you know what?
Hey.
No shame. No shame.
No shame.
No shame. I'm not even kidding. It was at one of the. If people didn't know, for the past few years, I've been a host at an anime convention, AvCon, and it's all anime video game convention. And I was one of the years. I went around on one of my breaks, and there was a stall there. I think it was Madman. I think it might have been. It was one of the studios that bring anime into Australia, and they had High School DxD on the TVs and all that, showing it. Even though it's a family friendly event, they had big TVs showing High School DxD. It was all censored though, so that was okay. But yeah, I went to the Madman store and had a look, and I remember me and my mate just chalked up a random conversation with a bloke, and we were talking for like 10-15 minutes about how awesome High School DxD was.
Nice.
That was some good shit. But yeah, that's basically all of my top tier favorite anime.
Yeah.
Yeah, as I said, I got into the more mainstream stuff recently, like Death Note and Code Geass have been popular for however long. They've been popular forever.
For ages, yeah.
Yeah, but
yeah, I have a few more I want to mention real quick that I actually forgot that I watched recently and really enjoyed.
Mention them, and then I'll quickly mention manga, just because why the fuck not?
Okay, sure. So one I actually enjoyed, I think it was probably a year ago or so, maybe a little bit more, was Chivalry of a Failed Knight, or you might know it as Rakudai Kishi no Cavalry.
I've heard of that. Yes, I've heard of it.
It's actually really good. I think it's proper interesting throughout until it gets to like episode 11, when it starts getting I'm gonna say political, but I don't actually mean it starts getting you know, it starts saying Donald Trump's retarded.
The liberal government.
I mean is so the idea is the main character is supposed to be like the worst dude ever. Like he's not very strong at all or whatever. Like he's basically known countrywide as like this weakling who can't do anything. And he starts dating a princess from another country. And so yeah, the guy's known as like the worst one. They call him the worst one. And he's from this family of like prodigious, you know, fighters or whatever. And his family basically pretends that he doesn't exist because he's just that much of a disgrace to their family. And so he starts, so eventually, pretty early on in the show actually, which is one of the things I really like about it, he starts dating the main chick. And there's all kinds of political issues that spark up because of this. It's like the princess of a country that's supposed to be like a pretty big deal is dating the guy who's supposed to be like the worst guy, like, you know, the weakest piece of shit ever. And so the guy gets like kidnapped and thrown into like some kind of questioning or whatever with I don't know, but episode 11 until the very ending was very weird. But up until that point, it was excellent. Like I just didn't find myself interested in that last bit of conflict, and it kind of lost me.
Everyone's questioning this motherfucker of how he got in a relationship with a princess when he's meant to be a fucking loser. So
yeah, exactly.
Like, you blackmailing the princess.
Pretty much. It's not interesting television to me. I just didn't find myself like wanting to watch it at all. So, and then by the time it gets to episode 12, there's like, I don't know, it kind of loses me there. But up until that point, it's excellent. So yeah, good show, just weird ending. And then, what was the other one? It's called, I have it on my list as ʻænəʊ Battle, which is called, the full name is When Supernatural Battles Become Commonplace.
I want to watch that. That is on my list.
It's very good. It's very good.
I want to watch this one.
The protagonist is one of my favorites out of pretty much any anime I've watched. He's over dramatic in the right way. Like he tries to come off as like this edgy character, but that's like the character he's playing as like just for fun or whatever. That's not actually who he is, and he's over dramatic in all these like points, and he gets made fun of for it. But it's a very good show. I really enjoyed it from start to finish. They're supposedly light novels. Unfortunately, they're not translated into English. But yeah, there's only one season, and I doubt it's getting a season 2 because it was mostly a promotional thing for the light novels, as far as I know. But it's a very good show. Highly recommend that one. And then lastly, one that I just watched recently. There's a season 2, but I haven't watched it yet. Is It Wrong to Pick Up Girls in a Dungeon? That is a very good show.
I've heard a lot of good things about this one as well.
It's a very good show.
Heard many things.
I really enjoy this one. Season 2, from the looks of it, it kind of goes off the beaten path a little bit, but I think that's probably a good thing. But season 1, when I watched it, I pretty much binged it all in one night. It was really good, really enjoyable from start to finish. Just awesome. So, I mean, the protagonist is a bit stereotypical. You know, he's the guy who's like way too nice for his own good. So he's a little bit boring, but his motivations are clear and they work. So, yeah, I really enjoyed that show. It's also known as Familia Myth. But yeah, Is It Wrong to Pick Up Girls in a Dungeon? Really, really good stuff.
Nice.
That's also getting a season 3 next year, by the way. It's also getting a season 3. So that should be fun.
Dope. That'll be good. I've heard good things about that one at least. I haven't. Did I watch episode 1? I don't know. I feel like I might have tried to watch it at some point, but I don't remember. I would talk about anime I want to watch, but I have a list spanning of over 100. Nice. So I'm not going to because.
Yeah, I'll briefly mention the next, like, other than ReZero, My Hero Academia is high on my list of to watch shows.
You want to know a controversial opinion? I care nothing for My Hero Academia.
Have you seen it?
I've seen season 1, and I care nothing about it.
Really?
Deku annoys me. His rival.
He seems annoying.
He's right. Like, apparently, he's just annoying for the first few episodes, and then everyone says, "Oh, he gets so much better." But no, he just annoys me. His rivals are annoying. A few of the side characters are alright. All Might's, he's alright. But just overall, the anime
I need to give it. I just
me.
haven't watched it. I want to at least give it a shot.
Yeah, it doesn't really do much for me. I know a lot of people love it, so
yeah.
Controversy down the fucking.
Ooh.
There you go, have it,
Ooh.
eat it. But
spooky.
Anyway, I've had this
spooky
list.
Controversial opinion on Halloween.
Spooky. Yeah, so we're recording this on Halloween. So
we are.
You can tell.
Yeah.
the
spooky controversial opinion.
Different. Spooky, but yeah. As I said, I got a list of like over 100 anime that I've had since 2015. Because in 2015, a friend of mine gave me 2 lists of things she recommended. One of them was metal and rock bands. The other was anime. And I have yet to complete either one of those because both have grown extensively since then.
Wow.
So, yes. Because thanks to all the other people recommending me stuff, I'm like, hold on, I'll whip out the list. So,
whoa, hold on.
This list
Let me whip out my dick.
No, not my dick. No, I have like a list of anime written on my penis. So no wonder it's so long. No wonder. Anyway,
mine's not very long.
ReZero.
Hashtag small penis gang.
ReZero is just it.
That's it.
All right. Enough dick talk.
Zero. ReZero. That's how long my penis is. ReZero.
No. Oh Jesus. Anyway, manga. There's only a few manga I'm in at the minute. I said the Rosario+Vampire anime was not great, but the manga, literally the final volume, nearly made me tear up. It pushed me to the edge. I have both seasons, and it is infinitely times better. There's still a little bit like, just random harem shenanigans throughout it, but the plot in general is just so much more interesting, so much more involved. Sarah for the End, the manga is really good. There's like a little side story going on with one of the other characters, which I've yet to get into, but I know it's good. At least the main series is good. Maximum Ride, as I mentioned before. I've only got one light novel, and that is the ReZero light novel, and it's very good, but I haven't had the time to get into other light novels. I'm trying, and other volumes of ReZero. Trying my best. And the Death Note manga, I've got the fucking huge. They're called the Black Editions, where they like summarize 3 or 4 manga books into one. So they're like fucking huge. So yeah, I've got all the Death Note ones. I think that's it. I'm just trying to glance at my shelf. I've got the Ruby mangas as well. Yes, that's right. I've got the Ruby.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
And Sword Art Online Progressive. I do have Sword Art Online Progressive because the manga, and I've been told the light novel of that is actually pretty decent. And
nice.
From what I've read of the progressive manga, it's actually not bad. So I've got a few of those as well. So yeah, that's all the talk I've got. I think I'm done because
I'm done as well, actually. So
I'm trying to think of anything else, but no, I've kind of mentioned everything I wish to mention. I do intend to get Crunchyroll. Please support the official release on anything.
Yes, please do.
I know it's very easy to just find a website and pirate a bunch of shit, but it's not right. It's
if you really it's A, not right, and B, it's like if you want to properly support the anime that you love in not only an ethical way but also in a financial way, then please get an official, supporter of the studios like Crunchyroll or Funimation or anything. Hulu counts too. Netflix, anything that has been that you have to pay for, basically. I know it sucks you have to pay for it, but that's how you financially support the studio. Like, that's how they earn their money. So please, we don't get serious very much on the FireStorm podcast because we're very goofy and we say some dumb shit. But for real,
we tell long stories for half an hour and then we tell massive jokes in between about it.
Massive penis jokes,
and then we get serious.
Yeah, we don't get serious very often, but yeah, like it's real deal, guys. Like, please do get an official, anime streaming service. You may not think it's like, oh, just one view is not gonna change anything, but like that's not really the idea. Like you're still that view time is, and those views, they still matter. Like, because without each individual view, you don't have the full total, right?
The whole thing about supporting the official release is they gauge sales and watches from the online streaming services and sales of DVDs, and they realize, all right, people love this show.
Yeah,
they want more of this show. We'll make more of this show for them. How else are they meant to know that if you're just doing a few clicks online and like, oh shit, I've got it? But legitimately support the official release.
Please
I know it's. On occasion, everyone does it. Everyone pirates stuff. Like, I pirate music on occasion. I do try to buy a lot more of it now that I'm financially stable. Mm-hmm. Everyone has pirated anime at some point at the time, but as I said as well, I'm getting a streaming service. I've got Netflix already, and it's understandable why some people do it, but it also just support the official release if you want more of the show. If you want more of the content you love, you have to support the official release.
Yeah.
So, on that ending, thank you all so much for watching and listening. Just letting you know, if everything goes to plan, we'll have a very special episode of the FireStorm Podcast coming in the next few days.
Yep.
So keep an eye out for
sometime.
That. Hopefully this weekend. We'll see how things line up. Things should be good, though.
Yep.
But yes, thank you very much for listening, and we will catch you all later.
You didn't plug the social media!
Oh no!
Plug our social media, quick!
YouTube, Facebook and Twitter at FireStorm Pod, and if you got any ideas for topics and such,
questions or suggestions, as my bars. Yes. I have bars. Yes. Questions or suggestions, please email us. We are firestormproductions2@gmail.com. That's no caps.
Yes.
And the number 2. So yeah, follow us. We say dumb jokes and send us an email. We may or may not respond, but we will see it.
Tweet us your favorite anime or put it in the comment section below on this video.
Please do. We love to hear what you guys think.
Yeah, recommendations for anime or manga.
Yes.
We're both keeping ears out now that we're watching a bit less YouTube and watching a bit more anime. So if you've got suggestions, we would love to hear it. Anyway, enough plugging. Have a good one, guys.
Bye.